Only my touch keeps the ice-furred Foxy alien woman alive. The blizzard had torn through my expedition camp like a vengeful spirit, leaving me with nothing but the emergency beacon in my pocket and the clothes on my back. I'd been surveying this frozen moon of Kepler 442b for 3 weeks, documenting the ice formations for the terraforming committee. Now I was just trying to survive. The cave appeared like salvation, a dark mouth in the glacier's face, promising shelter from winds that could strip flesh from bone. I stumbled inside, my thermal suit doing little against the supernatural cold of this place. That's when I saw her. She lay curled in the deepest shadow, and at first I thought she was some kind of animal. Her body was covered in pristine white fur that seemed to shimmer with frost crystals, and from her blonde, wavy hair sprouted 2 delicate fox-like ears, tipped with orange that matched the luxurious tail curled around her form. But her face was unmistakably humanoid, beautiful and pale, with high cheekbones and closed eyes. She wasn't breathing. My medical training kicked in before common sense could intervene. I dropped beside her, pressing my fingers to her throat. Her skin felt like touching dry ice, painful, burning cold. But there was a pulse, faint and slow, like a dying star's last flicker. "Come on," I muttered, stripping off my gloves. The moment my bare hands touched her face, something extraordinary happened. Color bloomed beneath her translucent skin, spreading from where I touched her. Her fox ears twitched, and those eyes, brilliant amber with vertical pupils, snapped open. She gasped, grabbing my wrists with desperate strength. Her voice came out in a language I didn't understand, melodic and urgent. But I understood the meaning. "Don't let go." "It's okay," I said, even though nothing about this was okay. "I've got you." She pulled herself closer, her frost-furred body pressing against mine as she sought my warmth. I could feel the temperature of her skin rising where we touched, but everywhere else ice crystals continued to form on her fur. She trembled violently, her tail wrapping around my leg instinctively. "Ethan," I said, pointing to myself. "My name is Ethan Wade." She struggled with the sounds, then whispered, "Kira." Her voice was soft, musical, even in distress. She pointed to herself, then touched my chest, her palm directly over my heart. "Warmth. Need. Warmth. Only you? Only me?" That couldn't be right. But when she tried to pull away, even slightly, I watched in horror as ice began spreading across her skin like a living thing, crackling as it formed. She cried out in pain, and I immediately pulled her back against me, wrapping both arms around her. The ice retreated. "What are you?" I breathed, but she was shaking her head, pressing her forehead against my shoulder. Her ears flattened against her skull in what I recognized as distress. She didn't know either, or couldn't explain. Outside, the wind howled with renewed fury, and I heard something else, a mechanical whine that didn't belong to nature. Kira's ears swiveled toward the cave entrance before I heard anything concrete. Her amber eyes widened with pure terror, and she gripped my thermal suit so tightly that her claws, I hadn't noticed she had retractable claws, pierced the fabric. "Hide," she whispered urgently in her accented English. They hunt Kira. Who hunts you?" But there was no time for explanations. She pulled me deeper into the cave, her movements fluid despite her weakened state, her tail swishing for balance as we navigated the ice-slicked floor. The problem was immediate and obvious. She couldn't let go of me without beginning to freeze again, which made moving together awkward and slow. The mechanical whine grew louder, resolving into the distinctive sound of hover cycles. I'd seen the Corsair pirates use them, raiders who preyed on remote outposts and mining operations. What were they doing here? "In here," I said, spotting a narrow crevice. We squeezed inside, Kira pressed against my chest, her rapid heartbeat pounding against mine. Her breath came in small white puffs despite the warmth radiating between us. I could feel her shaking, though whether from cold, Fear, or both? I couldn't tell. 3 figures entered the cave, their silhouettes backlit by searchlights. They wore environment suits and carried weapons I recognized as plasma rifles illegal in 7 sectors. "The tracker says she's here," one growled in Standard. "The little freak can't have gone far." "Worth more alive, remember?" another added. "The Syndicate wants to study how she survived the cryoplague." Only living specimen. Cryoplague? I'd heard rumors of a bioweapon that had decimated a colony ship, turning victims' bodies against them, freezing them from the inside out. The entire ship had been quarantined, presumed lost with all hands. Kira's claws dug deeper into my suit as understanding dawned on me. She was a survivor. The sole survivor, perhaps. And somehow, inexplicably, my body heat was keeping the plague dormant. What did the scientists say? The third hunter asked. "Why does she need a human?" "Who cares? We just need to catch her and collect the bounty." 20 million credits. 20 million. That kind of money attracted the worst kinds of people. The hunters moved deeper into the cave system, their lights sweeping dangerously close to our hiding spot. Kira buried her face against my neck, her fox ears pressed flat. I could feel her trembling intensify, and worse. I could feel cold creeping up her legs where they weren't in direct contact with me. I made a decision, carefully. I shifted our position, wrapping my legs around hers, trying to maximize our contact. She understood immediately, adjusting so that as much of her body as possible touched mine. The position was intimate, necessary, and undeniably effective. The tigged, creeping ice retreated, but it also made escaping impossible. We stayed frozen like that, for what felt like hours as the hunters searched. Kira's breathing slowly steadied, her body relaxing incrementally against mine. In the darkness, I became acutely aware of every point of contact between us. Every place her frost-white fur pressed against my skin where my suit had torn. Her tail curled around my waist, almost protectively. Finally, the hunters' voices faded, but we both knew they'd be back. This cave wasn't safe anymore. Nothing on this frozen moon was safe. Why me? I whispered against her hair. Why does it have to be me? Kira pulled back just enough to look at me, her amber eyes luminous in the darkness. She touched my chest again, over my heart, then her own. Heat, different, special. Ethan heat. Matches Kira frequency. Frequency? She struggled for words, her brow furrowing in concentration. Body. Energy. Ethan energy. Resonates. Like. She made a humming sound, then changed pitch slightly. Harmony. I didn't fully understand, but one thing was clear. Whatever biological or quantum anomaly made my body compatible with keeping her alive, it meant we were bound together. If I left her, she'd freeze. If she left me, well, I'd probably just die in this frozen wasteland like I'd been about to when I found her. Then we survived together, I said, for the first time. Kira smiled, a small, uncertain thing that transformed her face. She leaned forward and very gently pressed her forehead to mine. A gesture of trust, perhaps. Or gratitude. Dawn broke over the ice fields with a pale light that barely penetrated the perpetual storm clouds. Kira and I had spent the night wrapped together in the cave's depths, taking turns sleeping while the other kept watch. Every hour I'd noticed her body temperature dropping slightly, requiring us to adjust positions, maintaining that crucial contact. My ship, I said as pale light finally gave us visibility. The crash site is 5 kilometers north. If we can reach it, there might be supplies. Medical equipment, maybe something to help you. Kira nodded, but her ears remained flat with anxiety. Hunters will watch. She was right, of course. But staying here meant dying slowly or being captured. Neither option was acceptable. We emerged into the bitter morning carefully. Kira pressed against my side, one arm wrapped around my waist while her tail maintained contact with my leg. Moving together was clumsy at first, but we developed a rhythm, a synchronized walk that felt almost natural after the first kilometer. The landscape was stunning and hostile in equal measure. Ice formations jutted from the ground like crystalline sculptures, each one refracting the weak sunlight into rainbow prisms. But the beauty was deadly. The temperature without my thermal suit would kill me in minutes. For Kira, even with me, the cold was a constant threat. "Tell me about your people," I said, partly to distract us both from the brutal trek. "Where are you from?" Kira was quiet for a long moment, her breath coming in visible puffs. "Ship, colony ship, called Vagrant Star. We travel from Andara system, seeking new home." Her accent grew thicker with emotion. "But plague. It came in the dark, started with children, freezing from inside, then adults. We tried everything. Nothing stopped it, but it stopped in you, not stopped. Sleeping, waiting." She pressed closer to me, seeking comfort as much as warmth. "I wake up. Everyone gone, frozen, dead. Ship in orbit around this moon. Emergency systems failing. I take pod, escape, crash here. 1 week ago? Maybe 2? Time. Strange when you freeze alone." The thought of her spending weeks alone on this frozen hellscape, slowly dying, was almost unbearable. "You're not alone anymore," I said. Her grip tightened on my suit. "Ethan, when we stop touching? Don't think about it. Must think. Must understand. If you leave, I won't leave. If you die, then we figure this out before that happens." We crested a ridge and found my crash site below. The survey ship had broken into 3 sections, scattered across an ice field. But movement near the largest section made my blood run cold. The hunters had found it first. Kira growled, an actual animalistic sound that rumbled from deep in her chest. Her claws extended reflexively. "They take everything." "Not everything," I said, spotting something they'd missed. "See that emergency cache? The small module half buried in ice?" Her sharp eyes followed my pointing finger. "Far from ship. 50 meters. We'd have to cross open ground." I checked the raiders' positions, but they're focused on the main wreckage. "If we're fast." "Cannot be fast together," Kira said, practical despite the disappointment in her voice. She was right. Our synchronized movement worked for traveling, but not for sprinting. Still, that cache contained medical supplies, food concentrates, and most importantly, a communication beacon stronger than my emergency one. We could call for help. Together or not at all, I decided. We descended the ridge carefully, using ice formations for cover. Kira moved with a predator's grace, her tail swishing for balance, her ears constantly swiveling to track sounds. Every few minutes, she'd press closer to me, her body's desperate need for my warmth overriding tactical considerations. The cache's lock responded to my biometrics, which seemed almost miraculous given everything that had failed in the past day. Inside, medical supplies, nutrient packs, thermal blankets, and yes, the beacon. "Ethan," Kira whispered urgently. Her ears had swiveled toward the main wreckage. "They come." I grabbed the beacon and as many supplies as I could carry. Kira took the blankets, wrapping one around both of us to maximize our shared heat. We moved quickly, but not quickly enough. "There!" A shout echoed across the ice field. Plasma fire erupted, superheating the ice where we'd stood seconds before. We ran awkward, stumbling, but together. Kira's tail wrapped around my waist, helping us maintain contact even as we fled. More shots. One grazed my shoulder, and I felt Kira's scream of anguish even as I felt no pain yet. "Don't stop," she begged. Please don't stop. We plunged into a maze of ice formations, the hunter's shouts growing closer. My shoulder was bleeding, warm blood soaking my suit warmth that Kira desperately needed, but that signaled my own mortality. Then the ground beneath us gave way. We fell through layers of ancient ice, sliding down a glacial chute that seemed to go on forever. Kira wrapped herself around me, her body cushioning mine, her tail creating drag to slow our descent. We hit bottom in a chamber I hadn't known existed, a cavern so deep the ice glowed with an otherworldly blue luminescence. Ethan. Kira's hands frantically checked me for injuries. Where her fingers touched my wounded shoulder, I felt warmth instead of pain. Her eyes widened. You bleed. You bleed for Kira. I'll be fine, I said, though my shoulder screamed otherwise. We need to, but Kira wasn't listening. She turned toward the center of the cavern, her ears pricked forward, her tail rigid with shock. No, cannot be. I followed her gaze and understood her horror. The cavern was a tomb. Dozens of bodies frozen in ice, all of them with the same fox-like ears and tails, the same elegant features. Her people. The crew of the Vagrant Star. They all came here, Kira whispered, moving toward the nearest frozen figure. Looking for... She stopped before a large crystalline structure that pulsed with soft light. It looked organic and technological simultaneously, like something grown rather than built. Characters I didn't recognize covered its surface. Sanctuary Protocol, Kira read, her voice breaking. Our ship's eye? It told us legends. If plague comes, go to Ice World. Find sanctuary. Find cure. She laughed bitterly. They came. They died. No cure. Only lies. I activated the beacon, setting it to broadcast a distress signal on a secure frequency. But I kept half my attention on Kira. Watching her process this devastating discovery. She touched the crystalline structure, and it responded to her, lights flowing beneath her fingers. Text appeared in Standard, translated for my benefit. Sanctuary Protocol. Emergency. Bioweapon countermeasure cryoplague requires. Thermal resonance for stabilization. Compatible human carrier detected. Ethan Wade genetic. Analysis. 97.3% match probability initiate bonding sequence? Bonding sequence? I read aloud. What does that mean? Kira turned to me, tears freezing on her cheeks. Ancient pact. Long ago, before your humans reach stars, before my people leave Andara, our species meet. Make alliance. Trade genetic adaptations. We gain your endurance. You gain our... What is word? Sensory abilities. She gestured to her ears, her tail. That's impossible. Humans have been in space for barely 2 centuries. Time is circle, Ethan. Maybe we meet in past. Maybe we meet in future and change past. Sanctuary knows. She looked at the structure with something like reverence. It knows you can save me. But price? What price? The structure answered with more text. Bonding sequence will create permanent thermal resonance. Link. Separation beyond 10 meters will result in critical failure for both parties. Process is irreversible. 10 meters. Effectively, we'd never be apart. Ever. No, Kira said immediately. Cannot ask this. Cannot take Ethan life. Kira, you have home, family, future. Cannot trap you with Kira forever. I caught her hand, pulling her attention back to me. I found you dying. I made choice then. This just makes it official. I turned to the structure. What do we need to do? Ethan, please think. I'm thinking. I'm thinking about how you deserve to live. I'm thinking about how maybe this is why I was on this moon in the first place. The universe has a funny way of putting people where they need to be. Kira's eyes searched mine, looking for doubt she wouldn't find. Finally, she nodded. Together, we placed our hands on the crystalline structure. Heat surged through me, not painful, but intense. I felt my body responding to something ancient and fundamental, cells rearranging, energy pathways forming. Kira gasped beside me, her frost-white fur beginning to glow with the same soft luminescence as the structure. Then I felt her. Not just physically, but deeper. I felt her fear transforming to hope, her loneliness finally ending, her life force intertwining with mine in ways that transcended biology. Our hearts synchronized, beating as one. Where her body temperature had been a constant drain on my warmth, now it stabilized. Finding equilibrium. The plague wasn't gone, I could sense it. Dormant and waiting, but it was contained. Held at bay by whatever connection now bound us together. The structure's light faded. Kira experimentally stepped back 1 meter, 2, 3, and the cold didn't return. She laughed, a sound of pure joy, and ran the full 10 meters to the cavern's wall and back. Her tail swished with excitement, her ears fully perked up for the first time since I'd found her. Free, she breathed. Kira is free. We are free. Together, but free. Then the cavern shook. Plasma fire burned through the ice above. The hunters had found us. There! The lead hunter dropped through the hole they'd carved, plasma rifle trained on us. 2 more followed, spreading out to cover all exits. Except now, everything had changed. I felt Kira move before she did, felt her intention through our bond. She rolled left as I dove right, our movements perfectly synchronized without needing to speak. The hunter's shot went between us, hitting the crystalline structure. Instead, bad choice. The structure exploded outward with a pulse of energy that sent all 3 hunters flying. But more importantly, it activated something else. The frozen bodies of Kira's people began to glow with the same soft light. The ice around them cracked, melted, released them. They weren't dead. They'd been preserved. The sanctuary, Kira breathed in wonder. It was keeping them alive. Waiting for someone to activate the protocol. Waiting for cure. The hunters scrambled to their feet, but they were outnumbered now. Dozens of Kira's people emerged from their icy tombs, confused but alive, their fox ears twitching as they oriented themselves. They looked at me with a mixture of fear and curiosity. I was clearly different. Clearly human, but when they saw Kira beside me, saw how she stood without freezing. Understanding dawned. He is human carrier, Kira announced in her own language, which I somehow understood now through our bond. He is my resonance, my mate. The word carried weight beyond simple translation. Among her people, it meant something profound, a permanent bond, recognized and celebrated. But it also meant protection. The lead hunter raised his weapon. Syndicate pays for live specimens. All of you are worth. He never finished. Kira's people moved as one, a coordinated strike that disarmed all 3 hunters before they could fire again. Years of frozen sleep hadn't dulled their combat training. Take them to the ship, one of the older males commanded. We'll contact the authorities from orbit. These raiders will face justice. But another of Kira's people, a female with silver-tipped ears, approached me cautiously. You bonded with Kira, saved her. Saved us all. She placed her hand over her heart in what I recognized as a gesture of respect. Human Ethan Wade, you are kith to our clan now. Family. Forever. The word forever didn't feel as daunting as it should have. Not when I could feel Kira's joy through our bond. Not when I saw her people alive and free because of a choice I'd make again 1,000 times. Weeks later, I stood on the observation deck of the Vagrant Star, watching the frozen moon recede in the